From the creators of the Next 15 podcast show, it's Words versus Words with Friends podcast, featuring Jolene Santiago and Shamika Montgomery. This is a fun, innovative, interactive podcast filled with stimulating discussions and healthy debates using words and phrases that we use every day. Now, let's get to the podcast.
Hi, welcome to Words versus Words with Friends podcast. This is a fun, interactive podcast where we challenge your mind and perspective using everyday words and phrases. I'm your host, Jolene Santiago, and I have my co-host here, Shamika Montgomery.
Hey, y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight for another awesome episode of Words versus Words with Friends. We ask that you would like, share, and follow. We are so excited to have you jump in the chat room. If you're on YouTube, if you're listening in on Spreaker, get in the conversation. We want your comments and your feedback. Words versus Words with Friends is a podcast created to bring back the real art of conversation. We're going to create dialogue, and we're also going to help you think outside the box. So tonight, we have a very special guest tonight, and we are so excited to have her. So, Joe, who is our special guest tonight?
K.A. CoCo Johnson.
And the crowd goes wild.
Welcome, CoCo.
Thank you.
So good to have you. So good to have you, CoCo. So tonight, our topic is going to be counseling, mentoring, coaching. Which is the more effective one? So, CoCo, as our guest, we're going to let you start and let us know what you think is the most effective.
Okay. Which one do I think is the most effective? All right. Well, of course, I chose counseling. Do I need to give my definition? How does
We're
this
going to
work?
do those to get definitions now. Thank you for that. So counseling therapy seeks to examine the cause of underlying dynamics of the individual, mental health conditions, and challenges that humans may face. And then we also have mentoring. If we could get that slide. Mentoring is a process of using specifically selected and trained individuals to provide guidance, pragmatic advice, and continuing support that will help the people in their learning and development processes. And then we're also going to look at coaching as well. It's a form of development in which an experienced person supports a learner or client in achieving a specific personal or professional goal by providing training and guidance. So with those definitions, CoCo, why do you feel that counseling is the most effective?
Well, with this being May and mental health awareness, I would say that the importance of having a healthy mind moving forward in who you are as a person and having the mind of Christ. There's been a lot of things that's been going on for the last couple of years. And so having a sound mind in Christ and moving forward in the individual life and who you are as a person, I think that the conditions that are put on people, because a lot of people are dealing with depression, anxiety, trauma, relational issues. And so those are daily challenges that we face every day. And so counseling, getting some godly counsel, getting the counsel of someone wise, and moving forward and getting to the underlying issue of what it is that is affecting you. And let's talk about it. I think that's why counseling would be the number one pick for me.
Okay. And Joe, which one did you pick?
You know, I say mentoring. Mentoring, I believe, gives you the skills. You know, you're working with a skilled person in a, you know, it could be let's say example, a job, right? You're working with somebody who has the skills that you don't have. And so they are training you and they are teaching you to be effective on the job. So for me, I think, you know, yeah, it's great, but I think that the more effective one is mentoring, because you need those skills. You need to perfect those skills in order to be effective on the job. So for me, I would say it's mentoring.
Okay. And so, of course, for me, your girl, I chose coaching. So I think that all three are tied together. I think it starts with the counseling first. You get to the root, and then you go to the mentoring, and then you go to the coaching. And the reason I think it's the most effective is because the coaching comes in with the counseling and with the mentoring, and it partners beside you, and it coaches you and encourages you to improve those skills and work on those skills and those issues that you have dealt with. So with the coaching, I think it's the most effective because we do need that encouragement. And our biggest example of a coach would be Jesus Christ himself, because he coaches us every single day with his word, with our friends and our family. And he also coached the disciples. And so I think he is the greatest coach ever. So that's what I think about coaching.
So one thing that I'll say about counseling, though, is that not everybody gets counseled. So I don't think, I mean, that's why I say personally it's not the most effective, because everybody doesn't need to see a counselor. And so I know a counselor is a person who is licensed. And I know you just can't counsel anyone. You have to be licensed in order to do so. But I know with mentoring, you can go on the job, and anybody can be a mentor. Anybody who has the skills to do a job, who knows more than you, can become a mentor. So I think it's those lifelong skills that that person gives you is what makes it more effective.
Do we raise our hand in this?
Yes.
Well, I understand you saying that everyone doesn't get counseling, but sometimes people like to ignore the fact that they have issues that they're dealing with. And so when we don't, when we don't face our ugly or face the things that have gotten us bound in our minds, it's going to be very difficult to get mentored because you're still trapped in that mindset and you're not able to, figure out or work out what's going on because you haven't faced the real issue. You haven't come to the realness of who you are in that area of where it needs to be counseled. And so with the mentoring, how can you jump to the mentoring if you haven't accepted or acknowledged the ugly that you are dealing with?
That's a good question. But, a person can effectively do their job. You can do your job without having to deal with your emotions. For example, I can shut my emotions off. And if I focus on my job, like in the past, whenever I went through something that was like traumatic, or if I went through a problem or I was going through, like in my marriage, or just going through in life, and being a single parent and all that, those times I was going through, I didn't focus on my emotions. So for me, I focus on the job. And when I focus on the job, I focus on doing my job the right way, the correct way. So for me, I didn't have time to focus on how I was feeling emotionally, how I was feeling at that time. So for me, I was still able to do my job effectively without even having to deal with my emotions.
Well, I just think that with the coaching, it is the most effective because I feel like it looks towards the future. We're going to talk about the present things that we've learned in counseling. We've dug deep and we've got to the root of those issues. Then we've had some mentoring, and then we're going to do some coaching. And we're really going to focus on what is going to propel us forward. We're not going to continue to focus on the past because we have dealt with those things. So I think with coaching, it is the most effective because you are having a chance to put things into practice, practical things that you have learned. So with coaching, I think it's the most effective because there are a variety of coaches. You have Christian coaches, you have health and wellness coaches, you have relationship coaches, pretty much any area and any topic that you need. You have a coach that will come alongside to encourage you, motivate you, and help you build that confidence. So that's why I think coaching is the most effective out of all three.
But to me, like coaching is short term. For example, it's performance driven. And when it's performance driven, once you have reached that goal, then you no longer need that coaching anymore. So whereas mentoring, it's long term because it's not performance driven, but it's like skilled development. It's development driven. So if I am developing my skills, then for me, that's long term. So if I don't know how to use a computer, if I don't know how to work a program, but I am taught the skill how to do it, that skill is going to stay with me throughout my life. So for me, that's long term. Whereas, say, like I'm playing sports, right? And so I want to, the goal is for me to become better at that sport, whether it's football, basketball, whatever. Because in school, I played sports, right? And when I played basketball, so I had a coach. So of course, it was performance driven. But if I were to sprain my ankle or if I were to hurt my knee, right, I no longer need a coach. So then at that time, I'm done. Like, what's the purpose of the coach at that point if I'm hurt? Whereas mentoring, it's a skill that I can learn and use throughout my life long term.
But I feel like with the coaching, just like we talked about earlier, there are so many different types of coaches. And so even if you don't need them for that specific reason, you can move on to the next one, and they can assist you there. Guys, we want to invite you to jump in the chat. If you're listening and we want some feedback tonight, we have CoCo here as our special guest. We're going to let her go ahead. I know she had a little point that she wanted to bring too.
Both of you are sounding just awesome on tonight, and I thank you for the opportunity to be here. But I just wanted to address what you just said, Jolene, about spraining the ankle and all of that stuff, and you don't need the coach and you don't need the mentor. So now we're back at a root issue. There's some hurt that you are going to have to deal with in order to move forward, to get that healing, to move to the mentoring and then moving to the coaching, because now you can't play your sport. So now you're out. And so there's things that's going to come. You're going to be sad and you're going to, blame others and, it's your fault and all of this stuff. And so now dealing with the hurt and the resentment, maybe because now you can't play, you're looking at your other teammates like, okay, well, that's not fair. And so not addressing that hurt, and you trying to go ahead and mentor, oh, I'm okay, I think I can play, but you're hurt. You're not addressing that main issue. And so you have to sit back and heal and address it so that way you can become whole, and then you can move forward in receiving the mentoring on how to take care of your wound, and then the coaching. Once you're healed, then go ahead, get back out there. So I really think that counseling would be the better fit, because we're dealing with the root issue, because the hurt is still there and we can't ignore it because you can't play anymore.
That's a good point.
That's a really good point, CoCo. That's a really good point. Yeah, definitely. But I mean, here's look. That was sports. I mean, let's look at another type of performance that maybe a coach could be used for, because it is performance driven. So, let's say I want to. Oh my gosh. Hold on.
It's okay.
Hold on. I had an example. Sorry. Fitness. Okay. So I have a goal. Maybe I want to lose weight, right? And I reached my goal. I had a coach, did great. I got to my target. I lost my weight. Everything was going good. So I no longer need that coach, right? Like I said, it's short term. I'd rather go with something that's long term than short term. And so mentoring is long term, because I can have the skills. So even if I learned a skill, right, I'm going to follow through with it. It's going to be with me for the rest of my life. Whereas maybe fitness, I have that coach for a little bit, temporarily, I might lose weight, but then I might gain it again. Hey, I might enjoy some chocolate this month or something, and I might end up gaining some extra weight, So then the goal, the purpose of a coach is no longer needed. But
I disagree with that. And the reason why is because after you've lost that weight with that encouragement from the health coach, let's just say that you are going into a relationship and you need a coach for relationship advice. You know what I'm saying? So with a coach, there can be different areas of your life, in the span of your life, where you need coaching. So I do feel like we always need that encouragement and that push. You know what I mean? We always need that to help us be motivated, to have that confidence, to know that we can take the skills that we've learned. We've done the counseling, we've done the work, as your girl Young likes to say, we done the work, we dug deep, you know what I'm saying? Then we went and we got us a mentor, and now we have us a coach to come alongside us and help us to continue to do those goals. Coaches also help you validate the way that you feel. And so they don't, belittle you. They're there to encourage you. They're also there to help you get a different perspective, because you may just be looking at things a little bit differently. So I think even with a coach, they have a lot of qualities, just like with counseling and just like with mentoring. I think they all work well together, but I still think coaching is the more effective one.
That's wonderful. I love you guys' enthusiasm, your support of your word, but it still goes back to the foundation of why it is that you're eating the way you're eating to, if you gain weight, if you're trying to lose weight, what was the reason behind the overeating to where you gained that weight? Was it stress? Was it, depression? Was it, just being greedy and just overeating? We have to look at the real issue. And I think a lot of people don't like to look at their issue in their face. And so I always tell my clients that I, have, change is very uncomfortable, but it's necessary. And so with change, there's going to come a time where it may make you cry, but then you get over those tears because you've learned from that one thing, and then you move on to the next. And so I know you had mentioned about the coaching. The coaching is there to, cheer you on. But what if I start eating again and I've gained that weight again? And then I'm right back. Okay, well, yeah, I got mentored, but I'm still eating and I'm still gaining weight. But you already got the tools to move forward, but you're still gaining weight and you're still overeating. So we haven't really attacked that issue. And so where did that stem from? Were you an overeater when you were younger? Was it something that's triggering you that you may have thought backwards and then it's moving forward and it's coming up now in your present in 2022 and you didn't deal with that thing when you were 12? So that's the change that happens, but you're reverting backwards. So it's up to you to change the narrative. So that's why I believe counseling, getting to that root issue. And in the African American community, we like to deal with things in our own house and not like to talk about it, and people ridicule you if you go get mental health. But that's just like going to the doctor, getting a checkup on your body. It's okay to go and get your mind checked out. That doesn't mean that you're crazy, like people may say, or diagnosed with a certain thing. It's okay to go and talk to someone to release those things that are in your mind, because that can be something that is holding you back. And the Bible tells us whom the Son sets free is free indeed. And so if you're bound in your mind, there's no mentoring that can help me. There's no coaching that can help me. It has to be transformed by the renewing of our mind. So that's why I say counseling would be the best part for that. I'll be quiet. God bless you.
Oh, okay, guys. What do you think? Who do you think is winning? Do you think it's me, Shamika, or our guest, CoCo? So, CoCo, you said something very interesting, and I want to be able to hold that thought. We're going to take a break, and we'll come back to you, CoCo, because you said something that was very interesting. So, guys, we'll see you right back on Words versus Words with Friends podcast. It's your anniversary, right? And your boyfriend, wants to bring you some flowers. I mean, you expect him to tell you that he's stopping at the store to go buy some flowers.
But it's still lying, though. That's what I'm saying.
So I'm going to deceitfully buy you some flowers because I want to celebrate your anniversary. Would you accept the flowers then if the person's lying?
But the question is not if I'm going to accept the flowers, because guess what? I'm going to accept them flowers, okay? You accept deceptive flowers.
Exactly. That's my point.
Monica, I'm sorry, but this day and age, sometimes it's hard to get flowers, period. So sometimes at this point, I don't care if they deceptive, if they truthful, if they colorful, they flowers. You know what I mean? You just say it like it's a nice thought. So yeah,
so lying is okay if it's beneficial to you. If it's beneficial, you're going to get something out of it. Hi, guys. Welcome back to Words versus Words with Friends podcast. That was a clip of our last episode. And so we want to encourage you guys. We take a poll after the show every week. So we're going to go ahead and put our poll up, our results. Last week was omission. Is it the same as lying? 60% of you guys said yes. 40% of you guys said no. Hey, you guys can vote every week. You can go to our Facebook page at WVWWF, our personal pages, Jolene Vasquez or Shamika Montgomery, or even the Next 15 podcast show with Trey North. And we also have a poll of tonight's episode, which is more effective, coaching, mentoring, or counseling. We will put the poll up right after the show, and we will share those results with you next episode. So guys, we won't be here next week on the 13th, but we will be on the 20th. So we will see you then, but we will keep that poll up so you guys can vote. So tonight we're talking about which is more effective, mentoring, coaching, or counseling. So CoCo, there was something you said during the break that was very interesting. And so you said, I truly believe in the word. I truly believe in, the renewing of your mind. I believe in the word. I believe in transforming your mind. I believe in all of that. But do you need a counselor to be able to transform the renewing of your mind? I've never seen a counselor, and I know I've been through a lot of things. But, and I'm not knocking counselors. I'm not at all. But I'm saying I probably wouldn't be able to make it on my job if I didn't have a mentor to help me along. Sure, I can suppress my feelings. Sure, I can put them aside, Sure, when I'm ready to deal with it and face it at that time, I will. But you know what? Like, truly, I did not need a counselor to get through it.
Interesting. You didn't need a counselor to get through it. But my question to you would be, how long did you deal with the issues by not addressing them?
So in my mind, I thought I was doing perfectly fine. I mean, hey, look, successful job, making money. I was a single parent, raising kids. Sure. I felt like I was doing great. I felt like I was doing good. So, I mean, to me, I think I did good. I depended on the word of God. I depended on, going to church. I opened up the Bible. I read the Bible. I prayed and I did all that. And I didn't have another person come in and counsel me on certain things.
I know sometimes a lot of people may not even be, Christians and don't know who God is. And so they're living their lives the way that they see fit. And that's something that they have been accustomed to, something that they have, was born into. And so how do we, I always say this, people are like, oh, we're going to get back to the normal. But what is normal? Your normal may not look like my normal. So what is normal? And so how would that look in a broader space for you? Like, what is normal? Because what you think that you may have been doing great, that's your feeling. But the person that's receiving your conversation, your activities with moving forward with them or whatever, what do you think that they were thinking, if that makes sense? Or they're come back to me.
Come back. No, I mean, I get what you're saying. I totally get what you're saying, because to me, what I felt like everything was okay. Everything was good. You know what I mean? And I get what you're saying. I'm not knocking counseling at all. People need counseling to make it through. I totally get it. But for me, if I didn't have the skills or I didn't have the mentoring, you know what I mean? And I lost my job, I will be devastated, because now I'm faced with an issue. And then I probably would need counseling. But I'm saying first, I had the skills. I needed the skills to be able to do my job successfully, because I needed that income. Without that income, I wouldn't have been able to feed my children. I would not have been able to put food on the table or a roof over our heads, because I wasn't getting money anywhere else. You know what I mean? I wasn't getting support anywhere else. You know what I mean? So I had no choice but to really dive in and focus on my job. So I guess at that time, I mean, I didn't have to, for me, I didn't have time. For me, I didn't have time to cry. Who had time to cry? I didn't have time, because I had to work and I had to put food on the table. So for me, it's okay, go homeless, okay, or sit at home and cry. I don't have time for that. You know what I mean? So for me, I think that's why I say mentoring is more effective, because I needed the skills to be able to work. And without being able to work, like, I wouldn't have been able to have a life or even make it in life.
Guys, we want to just go ahead and thank everybody who's jumping in the chat, giving us some feedback. So Monica says, I believe counseling is good and wise. She says the word speaks about having sound counseling. That is so good, Monica. And Charmaine says, God was your counselor. Absolutely. He is our counselor, our mentor, our coach. He is our everything. And so he's all wrapped up in one.
I totally agree with that. I mean, yeah, because I'm a Christian, I can believe that. I can believe he's my counselor. But how many people do we run into every day that are not Christians? And it's like, okay, what message are we sending to them? You know, I mean, maybe we can give them something or some type of insight, or maybe we can reach them somehow through mentoring. Maybe if I invest my time into you, maybe I can make a difference. I don't think you're not going to get that with a counselor, because a counselor is like, you have to go to an office, or you have to go speak. You have to go physically go see somebody. But when you have that mentor right with you, right next to you, you know, maybe I can see that my mentee is going through something, and hey, maybe I can offer some advice, or I can offer some help, because I'm right there next to them. Like, we are connected together somehow. And sure, the job brought us together, which is perfectly great, you know, but I can use that as an opportunity to minister to them at that point.
But coaching can do the same thing too, Joe. You know what I'm saying? Because that person doesn't have to be right beside you, especially these days, because we are going virtual. We're doing our jobs virtually. We're doing counseling virtually. We are doing coaching virtually. So a coach also helps come beside you. And like you said, some people may not get counseling, but anybody can get a coach, because when I looked it up, you actually don't have to be licensed to be a coach, which I think might be scary to some people. But if the role of a coach is to encourage and motivate, then do you have to be licensed? You know what I mean? Can you just have that life experience and be able to relate to that person on whatever issue it is that they're dealing with? But so Monica says she's agree with me.
Do you get to the point where you rely too much on a coach? Because if I'm looking at a coach to encourage me or to motivate me, am I spending or expecting for them to step in and to do that every single time? I think sometimes we become too dependent on other people. We become dependent on counselors to help solve our problems, or we become dependent on coaches, you know, to motivate us and to encourage us. But what happens when they're not there? You know what I mean? At least my mentor can give me something. They can give me lifelong skills that I can follow and take with me wherever I go.
I mean, Jolene is believing what she's saying, Shamika. She's believing what she's saying, and you're doing awesome. But I want to remind you, well, it says in Proverbs 11:14, where no counsel is, the people fall. But in the multitude of counselors, there is safety. And so Christ was, and it says in the Bible, counselor, mighty counselor. I don't see anything in the Bible where it talks about mentor or coach. We can only, put it the way we want to see it, depending on, I guess, what version you're reading. But in the multitude of counselors, there is safety. When I hear that, safety, I'm safe. A mentor, you don't know what you're getting, because they can be just making up something. They can be living a whole nother life, because counseling is not for the counselor. It's for you coming into the office, or if we're meeting in the park, or if we're meeting, wherever. The counselor is to help you dig up the answers that you have repressed of your problems. I'm just here to help advise and to help you to talk about it to where it's relevant and it's in your face. Because when we look in the mirror, we can lie to ourselves. But if you don't get to the safety within you to allow that counselor to help you do the work, because you have to do the work. I know you said that earlier, Shamika, you have to do the work. So coming to therapy, coming to a counseling session, it's not for CoCo, it's for you. And so in the multitude, you're safe there. So there's no judgment there. It's a free zone. You can talk if you need me to just shut up. You can do what it is that you need to do to help you out, not me. Because once I leave, that was your problem. Those were your issues. That was something that you wanted to communicate and get off your chest. That didn't have nothing to do with me. God bless.
That's good, CoCo. So I want to look at that comment from Mike Walker. He says, didn't Jethro counsel Moses? I'm just saying. Mike, you were so right, because if you could see my Post-it notes over here, I have that as an example too. Jethro did counsel Moses. So if it's in the word, even though it may not specifically say, coach, then what? Like you said, there's different versions of the Bible. So Patricia says, you can always remember God is our counselor because he knows you, and you can go to him in prayer and God will direct your path. Patricia, thank you so much for your comment and joining us tonight. CoCo, you are on fire, and you are really doing good with your word counseling, and we really appreciate you. You turned me up tonight.
But I wanted to say, even though the Bible doesn't say mentor, but you had young pastors like Timothy who saw, and he needed a mentor. And so you look at in the Bible, all the letters that were written, you know what I mean? So he did have a mentor, even though it didn't come out and say, oh, he's my mentor or whatever. But that's one prime example. And there are other examples too.
There's a lot of examples. But I don't have it in front of me, but where Jesus, he challenged his disciples. How long do I have to be with you? He's already allowed them to see his life. He's mentored them. He's coached them along. But how long do I have to be with you? Because he was the foundation of the normal of Jesus Christ. What was it that he laid the foundation for his disciples to follow? And so when you talk about counseling, mighty ruler, Prince of Peace, all of that wonderful stuff, the foundation is what makes a human. The foundation of your life is what makes you. So what Christ left behind was the example, was the mentoring, was the coaching. He left it there so that way they can be the example for us. Mm-hmm. So counseling, I don't know, guys. I just think counseling gets to the root of the issue, and because we were born in sin. Hallelujah. We were born and shaped in iniquity. So all of that was ugly. So when I talked about change earlier, it's so uncomfortable, but it's necessary. So how long are you going to hold on to that anger and repress it and not talk about it? How long are you going to be bitter about that divorce that, he didn't take care of the children? How long are you going to hold on to that disrespectful child and not put them out, or whatever the case may be, whatever issue you may have, going to war, seeing different things, seeing death? How long are you going to hold on to that when God has given us the counsel of his word, where it says that he'll never leave you nor forsake you? He's right there. He'll supply all of your needs according to your riches and glory. Yeah, that's counseling. So we have to learn to accept the wisdom of God so that change can take place in our lives, so we don't have to be the same. And then the disciples can come and mentor you and give you the examples and coach you on and say, go and do that very thing. So we say, good and thy faithful servant. So we all hear those words. So amen.
Yes. And you know what? Jesus, you can count him as a mentor too, because he did mentor the disciples. He did. He gave them lifelong skills to be able to walk as Christians. What does it look like to walk as a Christian? What does it look like to stay up and pray? Even though they struggled and had problems with it. Can you stay up and pray? And they struggle with it. But he sat there and he taught them, and he went by step. So he can be counted as a mentor too.
And Daryl says Jethro counseled Moses because he saw something that could be done better. That's one thing a counselor does. They recognize problems and provide a better solution. That's what the word does for us. It counsels us to be and do things better. Daryl, thank you so much for participating in your comment. And you're right. I just think all of these do go together. I still think coaching is the most effective because that's my word. So I'm sticking to it. And like I say, when it comes to counsel, mentor. The Lord is all three in one.
Amen.
He is everything. He's every adjective we can think of. And Monica says, come on now, absolutely.
Yes.
So it doesn't have to specifically say coach, because the Lord, he is all of those things and more. So yeah.
He is everything that you will ever need. Anything you need, he is there. CoCo, wow, thank you so much for being our guest today. Like, you really brought this conversation, and I just really appreciate the insight that you have brought. I really appreciate your perspective and what you brought to everybody out there. Guys, look, if you're on Facebook, look, guys, we encourage you to share this episode with other people on your page. Go ahead and share it, because that's our goal of Words versus Words with Friends, is that we want you to hear different perspectives. We don't want you to be just stuck in one mind frame or one mindset. We want you to see that, hey, there are other ways to think or different ways to look at this, different angles. So we just encourage you, to just not just take one side and run with it, but to consider all different sides. CoCo, thank you so much for joining us. We want to know what is going on with you. Do you have anything going on in your life that you want to share? Do you want people to know, like, church? What are you doing in church? Anything coming up?
I have a lot of things going on, but I choose not to share those at the moment because they're still in the works of some things. But we do have our 20-year celebration at Agape Church of God in Christ in June 24th through the 26th. Somebody help me out.
Yes.
But we are having a golf tournament to raise money for a down payment for our mortgage. Our land is paid for. We have 10 plus acres of land, and we are wanting to do things more for the kingdom of God. And so the people of God, our pastor believes in being debt free. And so we want to be able to operate and be debt free. And so the tournament is June 18th. And so there's more information on agapecogic.org. You can go, you can register if you would like to be part of the booklet. We have a souvenir booklet if you want to be a part of, you're more than welcome to do that as well. And so it's a lot of activities that's going to be going on. And so for the church's sake, we're moving forward. But as far as me, I would like to keep that on the hush until God releases it to be known to the public. Amen.
But CoCo, you do something every morning. What do you do on Facebook every morning?
Well, every morning, like my God morning post.
Yes.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Oh, well, God morning. Good morning. God morning to you all, beautiful people of God. I just look at that as a witnessing tool, to just encourage somebody, because I'm a natural encourager. And so, being a strong person, sometimes, people forget to ask you how you're doing and things like that. And so I get joy being able to be that encourager, to just reach out and say, hey, how you doing? God bless you. You all right? And check up on people. And so that's just something that I do just to put a smile on your face. And I didn't think that was something, but to God be all the glory.
You know what? You're ministering to people and you're making a difference. Whenever you encourage somebody, they may need it that day. And when you can start off somebody's day, with encouragement, like, that makes a big difference.
Amen.
Where can they follow you at, CoCo?
Ooh, girl. On Facebook, CoCo OverComer Johnson. Oh, there it is right there. Look at him. And you can follow me there. I have TikTok. I don't know the name. And I have Instagram. I mean, I'm not big wigging like y'all, and I appreciate the opportunity of coming on your platform. God bless both of you. And I'm honored that you both invited me and trusted the God in me to be on here on today. But I'll have more information following soon.
It's been a pleasure. Shamika, did you have any questions for CoCo?
I did. So CoCo, because I know Jolene does know you, so I just had a couple questions. Something I wanted to hit on was earlier you were saying that in the African-American community, I know that counseling is one of those things that we have really had to struggle to learn to do. And we looked at it as something as what happens in this house stays in this house. So when it comes to counseling, mentoring, and the coaching, do you feel like we struggle with that as well, the coach? Because if we can't even go to the counselor, then what are our views on being mentored or actually having a coach Do you feel like that's something that we struggle with as well sometimes?
You meaning in the African American community?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think so because I've seen a lot of people, that aren't like covered. And so sometimes you can be in competition with somebody, not even know that you're in competition with them. And it's like, what in the world? Like what I say, what in the Jesus? What in the world is going on here if we're supposed to be helping, cultivating, iron sharpening iron, pulling you alongside of me? We're working together to uplift the kingdom. It's so much work for us to do. We shouldn't be fighting over a little corner when God's kingdom is bigger than that. And so having a mentor, I think the accountability is exceptional. Like it's out of this world because a lot of people don't like to be accountable. If you say something to them, they're easily offended. Why? Why can't you, why, my question, I mean, in the counseling world, you're not supposed to ask why, but what is it that's making you not want to be accountable? Because I know I heard someone say, if you're the smartest person in your group, then it's time for you to move and elevate and get around some people where you're trying to go. So if you don't want that mentorship to teach you, to be teachable, you're always supposed to be teachable. You don't know everything. You haven't, like our pastor said, you have not arrived. I may see that halo over your head now, but what was you doing a couple of years ago or whatever the case may be? And then with the coaching, the life coaching, sometimes, people aren't living what they preach. So you're trying to tell me to do something and you can say one thing with your lips, but your heart is far from the Lord. And so it's a time for discernment in this hour. I really believe that, and to know who is really serving God and who isn't, because the Bible tells us the elect will be fooled, and I don't want to be nobody's fool. So that's my take on it. Let's be accountable. If you're going to do this thing, if you're going to live for God, it's okay. You don't have to be hiding, because the enemy hides in secrets. The enemy likes the dark. Let's bring that thing to light. No, I ain't trying to tell your business. No, I'm not trying to expose you. But what you doing that for if you saying that you a Christian? Everybody ain't no Christian. I can't, for me, when I was in the club, I'm sorry, y'all. I get passionate about it. But when I was in the club, smoking my weed, doing my do, and hot telling it and doing what I need to do, I was doing it faithfully and enjoying myself. But when I hopped on God's side, ain't no time for no games, ain't no hypocrite, ain't no nothing going on. My dad is a pastor. And so for me, when I was doing my do, can't nobody at Agape Church of God in Christ say that I was hypocriting, being in the choir or doing whatever I do. This is something that had to be cultivated and birthed out in me. It says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he gets old, he won't depart from the word. So the word was spoken over my life. I was able to receive the word and build my own relationship with Christ and not my parents. And so mentor is great because you need to have that accountability. And as a single woman right now, I need that accountability. I need you to tell me the truth in love. If I'm doing something I ain't got no business, you tell me. Don't let my slip be hanging and you laughing at me. Pull me by my coattail and tell me. But people get offended. You can't say nothing to nobody no more. You judging me. Girl, you gonna lift up your eyes in the devil's house if you don't tell people the truth in love. So I'm finished. I'm sorry.
That's good. And I have just one more question. So I want to touch on what we talked about earlier, this being Mental Health Month. I just wanted to ask you, since the pandemic, do you feel like people have really been struggling with depression? Just to be transparent, I have struggled with depression myself. And so it's one of those things that we don't like to talk about, but that mental health is just so important because it affects every area of our life. So do you feel like since the pandemic, that since everything has slowed down, shut down, people have really just gone into more of a depression, being isolated? Because some people just don't like to be alone. And when you're alone, you have to deal with yourself. You know what I mean? Or somebody, a spouse that's working your nerves, or whatever the case may be, issues that are going on. So with that, do you feel like there has been an increase of people who are dealing with depression and dealing with mental health issues due to the pandemic?
I believe so. The enemy has come in and distorted the minds of his people. And I believe the identity of an individual has been basically stolen, because some people learned in the pandemic they didn't know who they were. And that's where the depression comes in at. That's when the comparison comes in at. That's where you're thinking that your spouse, you want them to live a certain way. You had your identity of that spouse. And so when they don't perform in the way that you think that they should perform, you're disappointed. And so now you're arguing, you're fighting in the house, and you don't know what's going on. You're up and down like a roller coaster. What is that? And so I believe the pandemic was an eye opener for people to understand and know who God is in their life. And it shows you where you were with your relationship with him. I know I can speak for myself. Who is CoCo? You know, what I post on Facebook, am I the same outside of Facebook or Instagram or whatever the case may be? Or am I a whole totally different person? No, I'm the same, because Christ, there's no up and down with him. There's no back and forth with him. There's no double-mindedness in him. So I had to take and cultivate that word over my life and believe that word. Did I have some times where I didn't trust God? Of course. I'm human. I was mad because I didn't get what I wanted. I didn't, and you know, and can I just share this real quick testimony? I told people at the church, okay, I'm gonna be real quick. It was some things, I was following a woman of God, and she was saying about, we was doing exercise about forgiveness and stuff. And so she was like, yeah, say the name of who you forgive and just keep going. So I was just going, and I forgive him, I forgive her, I forgive him, I forgive. And then I was like, God, I forgive you. And I heard the Holy Spirit clear as day. Girl, who are you talking to? I am God. Me, a child of the Most High God. Well, and so I'm trying to defend myself to my father. I was mad at you because of whoop-de-whoop-de-woo. I don't care. Not that he don't care, but with me being fleshly, and he had to show me that's where pride can enter your heart and you not even know it. Miss Holier Than Thou. So I had to ask God to forgive me. Well, Lord, forgive me, because there go that pride. And so that was something in me that had to be killed, because I think I was owed some things, because I waited, Lord, I waited on you. I'm doing this, Lord. Lord said, no, ma'am. I'm the same today, yesterday, and forevermore. I am God. Every knee shall bow, every tongue shall confess. So he read me real good. I cried, and we back on good terms again. But I just was like, you know, you have to be real with yourself and quit playing. People playing too much, and it's so annoying, because if you come to see a therapist, the therapist is there to help you. You don't have to come in there lying and trying to impress. Get to your root issue. If you're doing it, like I have it in my notes right here, Albert Einstein, you know, is insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, thinking that you're going to get a different result. Stop it. Stop playing with yourself. God bless you.
That's good. That's good. Joe, I will go ahead and finish and see if I have any final comments. So final comments, I just want to thank you again, CoCo, for joining us. It has been an awesome episode. Thank you to all of our listeners, everybody who's given us feedback. So as we talk tonight, the coaching and the I just went blank, y'all. The coaching, the mentoring, and the counseling, they all come together. I think, like I said, I think the counseling is the foundation, because you got to dig deep, and then I think the mentoring will go with that, and then the coaching as the next level. So we thank you tonight so much for joining us. You can follow me on Instagram at Mika Lives. You can also follow me on Facebook at Shamika Montgomery.
And you can follow me on Facebook and Instagram at Jolene Vasquez. And CoCo, they can follow you.
Facebook.
CoCo OverComer. Yes. CoCo OverComer Johnson. So before we close it up, I just want to say, you know what, at one point, I believe they're all great words, all three of them. I believe at one point in your life, you may need to use one of those, you know, and they're all very important. So just because I picked mentor, I mean, I've been a mentor for at least like 8-9 teachers since I've been teaching, since I've been an educator for 13 years. So I've mentored a lot. So I do see the importance of it, but they're all very important. We're all needed every one point in your life. So thank you so much for the insight, guys. On Facebook, if you're on Facebook, Spreaker, YouTube, or you know, wherever you're listening to this, look, you can follow us every Friday at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Our Facebook page is WVWWF. You can also listen to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you like to listen to your podcast. We're also available on Spotify and Spreaker. But guys, until next time, we can't wait to see what you have to say. Yes.
One little thing we want to remind them about the poll immediately after the show. We want you to go and take that poll. Let us know who won tonight. Which one is more effective? Is it the coaching? Is it the mentoring? Is it the counseling? Is it all three together? I like to say that if you found somebody who included all three of those, that would be awesome. Mm-hmm. I think that would be great, but I just want to throw that in real quick.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I was going to say, with the counseling, depending on what theory you are operating in, you will be able to use all three. I won.
Guys, we will see you next week. Who's going to win? We'll see you next time on Words versus Words with Friends podcast. Until then, you've been watching Words versus Words with Friends podcast, brought to you by Next 15 Podcast Productions. If you would like to support the podcast, go to next15podcast.com and click the Buy Me Coffee tab, where we will receive your donations of any size. Thank you in advance and for watching the podcast. We will see you next week.